wanted to showcase is, and before we get into tasting, is really talk about this name change to the bench. Really, what is bench break? And a lot of you guys know this, but we'll just rehash it. But it's really just this geological phenomenon that creates a physical bench where the grapes sit on the mesa. So where the grapes sit and where it's grown, and it's our entire estate, sits on this mesa where it sits down, and the legs of the bench point into the Siskiyou River bed down in Santa Maria. It's an east-west mountain range, which is very, very unique. It's something that doesn't occur in wine-growing regions. Everything else is north-south. But here it's east-west, and what that does is opens up that ocean to come into the valley, where it gets fog and wind and creates this really long hang time. And then the other piece of it is the bench. Inside the bench, because of the way it was formed, you've got the ancient soils, 14 different types, plus ancient pectin shells, which we've displayed on the new package itself. And so, I turn to Michael and I ask, when you look at these soils and this bench phenomenon, what does that do to the wines itself?
Well, it really creates a bright, fresh acidity, for sure, and an authentic earthiness that creates these wines that really, to me, have a very French style. Authentic earthiness is just that. It's coming from old vines growing in very old soils, and the longer and older these vines get, the deeper these roots will go into these crushed rocks and shells, and bring a tremendous amount of earthiness into the flavor of the wine, rather than other methods wineries can use to kind of fake you out with some earthiness. No, this is genuine. It's authentic earthiness, and this Santa Maria bench is so famous for the slope, these old soils, and that cold wind and fog, creating the longest ripening season in the country, with what we call refrigerated sunshine. The average temperature there is only 72 degrees, so the long hang time because of cool, long ripening season in these old soils, and up against those San Rafael mountains that are continuing to erode and crumble and provide more gravel and rocks into these vineyards as time goes on. They will continue to evolve into this style of wine. It's incredible.
So two things I heard: authentic earthiness and refrigerated sunshine.
Yeah, and bright, fresh acidity.
Good. All right, let's. If you think about this estate, and it's 100% estate, and you guys know this, but everything that we have within the bench break wines, with the Clone 4 wines, everything that we sell in the D2C is all from the estate itself, and that's unique in the marketplace, especially against our competition. These old vines were planted in 1974. These wines are 100% certified sustainable. They're all estate grown and bottled. So when you combine the ancient soils, the ancient vines that have been growing, things have really evolved over time, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we have old original Clone 4, the old original clonal material from the 70s that we'll be grafting off and sending off to Davis to clean up, which is another exciting story that we'll tell later and delve more deeply into. But all of those things combine to create one of the most epic, amazing, and unique growing scenarios for its own specific terroir in the entire world. It's really very special. And as it evolves, these wines have changed from what we knew them for in the beginning years, in the late 80s and 90s, with more kind of flamboyant fruit styles and bigger style wines, certainly with the younger vines coming in. But as our technology and our information has improved, now we have much more refined viticulture and winemaking practices. The vines are getting older and older and older, and we get this very, very earthy style that is more finesse. So it's got power, but it's power, finesse. They're very elegant. They're juicy, fresh, and alive. And this is not a big fruit bomb. It's not a buttery, malolactic thing on the Chardonnays. You'll find when we taste these wines together, they're quite different than that.
So, one of the things we've heard out in the field is that there have been challenges with the name change from Julia's to Bench Break Pinot Noir and Catherine's to Bench Break Chardonnay. As a buyer, for many years, what do you think of the name change and moving it to Bench Break?
Well, I love it, actually, because I also know that the Pinot Noir blocks that are Julia's Vineyard and the Chardonnay blocks that are Catherine's Vineyard will still be honored on labels in bottlings, in other bottlings. But what this does is actually kind of not simplify, but creates a mental image and paints a picture of this amazing site that is so special and rare, and brings these wines together. That is also really one of the most amazing stories about this wine. Besides the family, it's the site. It's the Santa Maria bench. So bench break, I love it.
What do you tell buyers that say this wine is different?
Well, we know it's not different. We know it's not unequivocally not different. These are still from the same blocks of the Julia's Vineyard, the Pinot Noir, and the Chardonnay is coming from the Chardonnay blocks. What's different is over time, these older vines have evolved to give us a much more earthier style of wine. And if you haven't tasted it for a while, well, it has changed. You know, if it's been many years since you've tasted Cambria, welcome back, because what we have is very special, very versatile. It's not just big fruit bombs. These are they're more complex, they're more intense, but yet they're refined and elegant, and they're incredibly versatile. From a restaurateur point of view, I love them.
So you're making me thirsty, so let's go ahead and try these.
Awesome, let's taste.
So the first wine we have, and in the screen you can see, the first one we're going to do is the 2014 Bench Break Chardonnay. We've written tasting notes, but why don't you walk us through this wine, Michael?
Well, as you smell the wine, you can pick up a sense of oak, but I have to say it's only 14% new French oak on this, and only 6 months aging. But you do sense a little bit of oak there, and as you taste the wine, what I got right away was beautiful Meyer lemon and kind of a tangy apple with some pineapple. Then a subtle spice from the French oak, but then it goes very savory and earthy, especially on the middle palate, and then a kind of a long finish of pineapple and a fresh lemon zest, which suggests this juicy, fresh, bright, crisp acidity, and then a little bit of white peach on the very finish. And I think that lends to perfect pairing with things like shellfish, crab and lobster, calamari, smoked salmon, those types of things. And you know, for fish house or Asian fusion style of restaurants, and very versatile pairability with, you know, also your classic American cuisine, or even Southern cooking, Cajun, and I mean, an etouffee or jambalaya would just be ideal with this one.
And how do you think it's evolved over time?
Well, from what it used to be till now. Well, it used to be very fruit forward, and we used to have a very different style of winemaking. And Denise has what I would call a more minimalist style of winemaking, allowing the fruit that's there to show through, and not encumbered by any malolactic fermentation and very little oak, so that you have this great balance of earthiness and fruit. Whereas in the past, in years past, it was fruity, fruit wine with it had acidity back then, but not like it does today.
Yeah. Let's go on to the second wine. This is the Clone 4 Chardonnay, and take us through this, but then also tell us the difference and how someone sells this versus the Bench Break.
Sure, because that's been a question we've got had many times recently. Is, you know, how is the Bench Break different from the Clone 4, both on the Pinot and the Chardonnay? And we'll address that. But on this one, I have to say, taste this wine. You taste this wine, the first mouthful, the first impression is delicious fruit, but not massive big fruit bomb, but delicious ripe Honeycrisp apple, and a juicy acidity on the front, on the beginning, bright and fresh with like white peach, just ripe white peach and sweet lemons. I really love how that kind of frames around a core of this juicy acidity that goes all the way through the wine. You'll see what I mean.
You get that acid right.
Right up front,
yeah,
and then all the way through to the finish, and a long, beautiful finish, and very juicy. Your mouth's juicy enough because that's the acidity in the wine that cleanses your palate, so you can taste the next bite of food even better. I mean, it's just a wonderful food wine. And it's delicious to drink without fruit as well because of that beautiful ripe fruit, but not being overblown. It's all finesse, it's all elegant, but still with intensity, that power and finesse of flavor. We've got this beautiful, powerful flavor of fruit without high alcohols and great intensity without over oaking the wine. Certainly, there's minimalist oak there, but I think, man, this would be so delicious with anything with fins and anything with feathers. All right, just about any fish in the world, and anything with feathers, any kind of fowl, and southern fried chicken.
Southern fried chicken.
Oh man, barbecued shrimp, all of those types. It's such a versatile wine. And then there's another. We didn't talk about cheeses, but with both of these two wines, I actually did a pairing with cheddar cheese, and one of the most famous, wine and food mags that's out right now did a rating of cheese, and the number one cheese in the country was this Jasper Hill bandage wrapped cheddar cheese from Cabot. These two wines, these Chardonnays, were the most perfect pairing with that cheese that they exalted to be the best cheese in the country. The Cambria 2 Chardonnays pair with that cheese incredibly. So you can be very confident. Any cheddar cheese that's sharp or more, I mean, I'm sure it's good with medium aged cheddar, but sharp aged cheddars and long-term aged cheddars and things like that with these wines, just delicious.
Yeah. And then the primary difference you see in these.
Well, you see there's a brighter and fresher crispness, and because of less oak on, I mean, there isn't a lot of oak on this one, but there's so little on this one. It's just all about the fruit, sweet Honeycrisp apple right on the approach. This one is a little more citrusy with the Meyer lemon. The bench break is a little more Meyer lemon and pineapple. The Clone 4 is a little more, I don't want to say refined, but it could be, but with a frame of great juicy acidity.
All right, let's move on to the Pinots.
Our first Pinot Noir is going to be the Bench Break 2014. And by the way, these are all 2014 wines that we're tasting. So the Bench Break Pinot Noir, I love the floral nose, real pretty, red and black fruit on the nose. And then as soon as you taste, let's see what we got. Again, power and finesse. I love the intensity of the fruit up front. You've got black raspberry and Bing cherry, which are all delicious, ripe fruit flavors. It is absolutely nowhere near overblown. It is so finesse and moderate and just palate pleasing. It has got a great silky texture, and then it gets a little spicy and savory on the middle palate with cardamom and that earthiness that we're talking about, and then finishes with beautiful soft ripe tannins. I think that Bench Break 14 is amazing. It's delicious.
And this one you have 8 different clones that they put in.
That's right, including 4, but there are the other clones in there. And now let's compare that with the Clone 4 2014, which is, as you all know, it's a Pomard clone. So we are actually looking for that unique style that clone will give us, with a little more grip, a little bit more structure and tannin, and on the nose, and I know on the palate, you've got these red berries and cherries. That frame this spice, and it's balanced with this old world earthiness. So the fruit is balanced with the earthiness, and there is a little more structure. The tannins were extremely silky and satiny on the Bench Break. Here we've got a little bit more grip, a little more structure, a little more intensity, and those tannins help build a little bit longer finish and a little more velvety texture coating your mouth that gives you that, what I call power and finesse. It's refined elegance with a little power and a nice long finish of fruit and earth both. And that's the main core, the theme between all 4 of these wines, and the site is giving us this beautiful earthiness in these wines, which is very uncommon in the New World.
And you like this with grilled or roasted salmon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Fried chicken on this one too.
Well, yeah, for sure. Barbecue pork. I mean, one of the best pairings I did with this wine at home was just a pulled pork sandwich on a Hawaiian sweetbread. Oh man, and if those of you that are on off-premise, if you go into your store and find a couple products in the store that are going to pair well with the wine, and just show the wine salespeople, hey, sell this, your brand, with this, and out the door, the guest has, just a very simple pairing they can take home and enjoy right now. We'll sell a lot more wine.
And the one thing I noted when we talked earlier was that this pairs really well with turkey. So
absolutely, holiday dinners. Clone 4 Pinot Noir with holiday dinners.
Yeah.
Ham or turkey, pheasant if you want to go there, roasted chicken would be amazing. And as we said, salmon, certainly, whether it's roasted or smoked salmon, did work very well with this wine. And the thing I love about these Pinot Noir is they're extremely versatile. It is the sommelier's friend. So virtually every restaurant would have a place for a delicious Pinot Noir with great acidity and earthiness. Any kind of food.
Right. Showing really well, these 14s.
They certainly are.
All right, so that concludes our tasting. We certainly will send this out. It has all the notes that Michael noted in it. We also have the wine information sheets, which gives you all the tech information that we'll send out. What we're really excited to tell you about is, you guys saw in the email that I sent out about a week and a half ago, October Cambria month is coming up. It's our 4th annual. And this year, we've added on some extra wild cards. So not only do the RMs get to win, the DMs get to win, Crown reps and Crown managers, but also there's 2 special wild cards. And this doesn't have to do with numbers, although numbers would be great. This has to do with the best success story that you actually have. It could be something where you turned around a buyer that didn't have Cambria for 5 years and now took it in and loves us, or it could be a massive sell that you recently had. Anything that really knocks our socks off has a chance to win, and so we're really pleased to add that. Again, airfare for 2 for you and a significant other. It's lodging, it's ground transportation, and a beautiful stay at the Charisma Resort at the El Dorado Real in Playa del Carmen. What are the things that we're giving you on top of the webinar that we're doing today is tools. And so I shared with you guys at the GSM, we still have some boxes, wooden boxes, with Julia and Catherine's letter in there describing the new wines and the bench break wines. We have a few of these. Some folks have ordered a lot of them and they're taking them. So make sure you get them if you have any buyer that wants a special or you think would need a special information pack about the wines. The other thing we have is the new digital footprint. I shared with you guys at the GSM, we have a new website. It's coming online, the same look and feel
awesome.
as the bottle.
Yeah, it's great.
It's coming online at the end of September, so right in time for October Cambria month. We're doing the QA right now. Should be ready to go really soon. We also have new point of sale materials. We heard you loud and clear. I'm looking at Kim Grasso right now. There was confusion out in the marketplace. We wanted to make it clear and simple. We're showcasing the bench with the background. You can kind of see behind us is the poster, but it just says Catherine Chardonnay is now Bench Break Chardonnay. Same estate vineyard, same wine, just a new name, and it's signed by Catherine. We're doing the same thing with Julia. Julia's Pinot Noir is now Bench Break Pinot Noir. Same estate vineyard, same wine, new name, signed by Julia. We're going to expand upon this. We actually created these new things in a poster that can be actually shared with you either as a backdrop for tastings, or it can be used as a glorifier in the same format that you saw on the point of sale. But it says, crafted by our family to be enjoyed by yours. And then it explains the wines and why we made the change with a sign off by Julia and Catherine. So these are going to be all available on the point of sale store for print on demand. We're getting it up in the next week and a half. You guys will be able to order it and get it in time, especially on the East Coast, in time for October Cambria month to put it up in stores. Again, when you create a 3K stack, those boxes actually create a visual of what the vineyard looks like. So we encourage the 3K stacks. I know California has done a really, really good job of doing that. We want to continue that in the rest of the country. The other thing that we have, and we shared with you earlier, is a sneak peek of the video. This video is a Cambria profile. It shows you the bench. Again, it's going to edit to about 2 minutes in length so that you can play it to the wholesalers, to your wholesalers, and to your buyers, but something really quick and easy to do. So really excited that we have all these different tools. We wanted to kind of showcase these wines and showcase, what foods go with them, dispel any myths that are out there. I have one question that I'm going to lead it off before I open it up to the floor. Is, as a somm for many, many years, and you're a master sommelier now, but you were also a buyer and you created wine lists before. What do these wines have that you would look for on a wine list?
Well, number one, versatility. Okay. And when we talk about old soil, old vines, cold climate, creates beautiful acidity, great earthiness, restraint, and elegance. Those are the things I would always be looking for on a wine list to add, to pair with, my pairing menus and all of those things. And I think those are the talking points of Cambria today.
Right.
The Cambria of today is French in style, and I would be happy to have this as a niche to play with on my wine list wherever I was, in any restaurant that I have been in before.
Right. Good. Right now, we'll open it up to questions. If you have anything, please type them into the chat box. Carolyn, do you have any that have come through?
I do. So one question is, where on the bench are the Catherine's and Julia's vineyards? And does some of this fruit still go into the bench break wine?
The question was, where on the bench are Catherine and Julia's vineyard, and do some of this fruit go into the bench break wines?
Well, absolutely. All of the bench break wines are sourced from Catherine's and Julia's vineyards. So it is all the same. As we said previously, this is really a key point. It's important that we all understand the fruit sources are exactly the same. The wines that did not change last year to this year, the sources did not change with this name change to bench break. They are exactly the same. There will be bottlings of Catherine's Vineyard Chardonnay and Julia's Vineyard Pinot Noir, I'm sure, going forward to honor those names.
I'll tell you that. It actually is coming out, and it's going to be the family reserved here. We mentioned it at the GSM, but those are going to be very special select blocks.
And that is a good idea to honor those names at a higher tier, and the entry-level wines, which are still amazingly delicious, now called Bench Break. It's a really cool name because it honors the Santa Maria bench. Now, where on the bench are these located? We're more to the west. Byron is a little more to the east, down in the deeper end of the valley, where it is a little warmer. It is absolutely cooler, and especially where the Julia's vineyard of Pinot Noir is on really the most west property of all of the estate, is the coolest end of the estate where the Pinot Noir is growing. And if you have access to any of the map of the property, the left side of the map will be to the west, the right side of the map will be to the east. And remember, it's an east-west running valley coming right off the ocean and going deep into inland. When the inland heats up, it pulls in that cold ocean air, and the first guy to get that is this vineyard. So it's cooler as it blows in over that, and then it can warm up as it goes farther inland. But we're so close to the ocean. It's one of the coldest sites in the state and the longest ripening season in the entire country because it's so cool there.
Got it.
Okay.
Next question.
Why did we decide to call them both Clone 4?
Why did we decide to call them both Clone 4?
Because it is Clone 4. It is clone number 4. It is a Pommard clone that has, and this is really a great story in itself. This is the original rootstock and vine. So this stuff was planted on its own rootstock. It's still there from the 74. It is Clone 4. It is Clone 4. We call it Clone 4. You can call it a Pommard clone, but there are different versions of Pommard clones. This particular one is our own original Clone 4, and so we're really honoring that. And we, as I was saying, we're sending this off to Davis to get these cleaned up so that this exact clone will be perpetuated, and then we can actually replant or plant in the future a cleaned up, perfect clone 4 going forward.
And, you know, in the DDC world, we actually had a couple of clones, Chardonnays that we made, a clone 115 and a clone 4. Clone 4 felt like it was the best in terms of broad market. It would appeal to many people. It's very versatile, as you know, we tasted.
Well, as we tasted, it's got great acidity and great, beautiful fruit right up front, and then power and finesse. I mean, it is a perfect, elegant style of Chardonnay that's not buttery and oaky.
Right. Next question.
Katie Phillips says, I've noticed the profile of the Chardonnay is greatly affected more than any of our other wines if they're served too cold. Any thoughts on this? Why is that, and how can we communicate that to the market?
That's a great question, especially with more elegant.
Repeat it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. The question
Yeah.
is, Katie Phillips said that she noticed that if the wines are served too cold, it affects them, and that they won't show as they should or as they can. And we should let people know about this. And I agree, it's a great question, especially with leaner styles of Chardonnay like this that are not oak, not big buttery fruit bombs. They don't have all that power and intensity to be opulent when they're cold. The colder they are, the more kind of shut down they will be. And any Chardonnay to me will improve as it warms over 50 degrees. I personally like to have my Chardonnay on the table rather than on ice. But I think as we have these very elegant styles of wine, you really need to let them warm up slightly because they'll improve tremendously as they warm up slightly.
And so you would tell the buyers and your distributors to make sure you're selling this and
to
selling
offer
it at 55 degrees or so.
Yes, actually, that's the second part of the question. I agree. I would want to do some training on any more elegant style of Chardonnay like Chablis from France too. I mean, that kind of style, you want to offer the guest and tell the guest that it may improve tremendously as it warms up slightly. So may I place this on the table rather than in the ice bucket?
Yep.
Another question. Who else makes wines like these?
Who else? No one. Is there anyone else? I mean, you talked about it. French style right now, right?
Well, yeah. Okay, so the question is, who else makes wine like these? My first answer is no one, like Jeff said. But, you know, we have a Carmel Road unoaked Chardonnay that will have a similar profile of fruit, but those vines are very young and they don't have the earthiness that we have in this site. That is what's so unique about Cambria, is that we have this intense earthiness all throughout any wine that we produce off those old vines and those old soils from that estate at this time. And that it's taken 40 years to get there. And it's amazing. We want to just make sure that everybody understands what it is and not selling it as another, you know, California fruit bomb or a buttery oaky kind of a wine that may be implied or thought. If they haven't tasted the wine for 20 years, they're like, oh, I remember Cambria. It was big and fruit and pineapple bomb. No, it's refined and elegant and earthy. And I can't think of another producer that displays this kind of what I call authentic earthiness in their wines the way these are showing now. And that's why we're doing this webinar for you, because it's really important that we understand what these wines are about today.
Yeah, and certainly no one in California outside of
not in the New World yet.
Okay.
Can Michael address the tannins in the Pinots, which seem heavier than in the past? Is this due to the age of the vines?
Can I address the tannin in the Pinot Noir seems stronger than before in the past? And is it due to the age of the vines? Well, definitely it's due to the age of the vines. And the older the vines are, the less fruit we're going to get, the tinier the little berries we're going to get. Also, you have to understand that we have the coldest site, one of the coldest sites in all of California, and the longest ripening season. So we are going to get small berries, and whenever you get small berries, the juice to skin ratio gives you more perceived tannin. Now, well, wasn't it like that before? Well, I think the older the vines get, the more the tannin will show. Also, our understanding of viticulture and winemaking has improved over the years as well. And every year that Denise gets under her belt is another year of experience to be able to perfectly get what the grape, the fruit has to offer, and get it in the glass without being encumbered by too much oak or manipulation.
Yeah.
And so there will be vintages that will be slightly more tannic or slightly riper or maybe less ripe, but I have to say, extracting this kind of flavor and tannin with this moderate alcohol is really an amazing feat. It takes a great skill to make a Pinot Noir like this. It's not like making a Cabernet Sauvignon, certainly.
And Denise and her team have been there for a combined 250 years, so they have a lot of experience working with these wines.
Yeah, you think?
Next question.
For guests visiting the winery, do we have any specialized tastings available to offer, similar to the experiences at the wine center, food and wine pairings, cheapened wine, etc.?
So we don't have an exact, the question was, are there any special experiences that you can have when you go visit the Cambria winery? The answer is that we don't have a food and wine pairing, but we do have a special cheese and wine pairing that we have down there. We also have hosted people, certainly trade guests, with special tastings and walk through the vineyard and walk through kind of the winery itself with Denise herself. It's an amazing experience. People have stayed at the guest house, which is about 10 minutes away, and they come to the winery, and we host a really good time on what we call the knoll, where people sit up front on top, overlooking the entire estate.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and we can create any custom experience that you guys want.
Can you speak to the other clones used in the bench break Pinot compared to the clone 4?
Yeah, so the clones that you have in bench break are 8 different clones. I'm not going to read them off the top of my head, but I know there's 115, there's 23, and each of them are used to give different profiles that Denise likes to do when she puts the final blend together. Some may have a little bit more spice, some have a little bit more tannin structure. The others just have a little bit more brightness and acidity to it, and so she blends it to create kind of the best. It's what she's been doing for Julia's for years and years. It's the same thing she does for bench break.
Yeah.
Clone 4 is part of bench break Pinot Noir, but it's just one of the 8 components.
And the Chardonnay, this 2014 bench break Chardonnay has, of course, clone 4. Also 76, 96, and Wente clone. And I have to say, one of the most difficult parts of winemaking and the greatest skill that a great winemaker can have is their ability to blend and to be able to sense and understand what, if I blend this together, what it's going to be like in 6, 8, 18 months. And Denise really has, from all of the years with her team on that property, with those blocks of fruit and those clones that are growing there, they understand clearly now what each of those clones and what the different blocks will bring as far as what Jeff is saying. Maybe one has more perfume and aromatics, another one brings you more structure, more tannin, another one has really vibrant, fleshy flavor and texture, and each one of those components is part of the blend that ends up being the finished wine, and also the amount of oak and how much old oak or new oak are we going to use. And I love that Denise has a restrained hand in that regard and puts her blend together with minimalist oak treatment and end up showcasing the beauty of the fruit. And what that amazing site is giving us is really ending up in the glass.
Great.
The age of the vines is 40 years old right now. Will we have new vines planted when the clean samples come back from Dave?
Yeah.
I can answer the question. There actually is some new vines being planted right now. They're coming online both this year and next year. There's a section right in front of the winery itself where we did plant. There are a couple sections that we're going to need to replant soon. Those won't come online for 3 to 4 years. But gradually you'll start seeing some replantings happening. But we do want to keep some of the 74 vines on there because, as Michael mentioned throughout this webinar, it gives it the profile and the structure and some very unique qualities that we can offer that no one else can.
That's true.
And a follow-up, will any of those be grafted onto the old rootstock?
Question was, will any of these be grafted onto the old rootstock?
Well, I would imagine yes, because that rootstock, because we're growing in sand, sandy soils repel a lot of pests, especially phylloxera, and that's why we still have old original rootstock. And that rootstock is pretty amazing. I think we would want to graft onto the original rootstock instead of pulling out and replanting.
Great.
Are we going to continue the partnership with Seeds of Empowerment? And if so, are there any new developments on the marketing side?
Yeah, so the question is, are we going to keep our partnership with Seeds of Empowerment? It actually isn't a partnership, it's a program that we've created. It's now, we're approaching our 3rd year of Seeds of Empowerment. We are keeping that that program alive. The partnership that we have is actually with Vital Voices, and we have that partnership for choosing a global ambassador and the grant recipient. We're doing that again this year for the 3rd time. The second one is actually painted, and it's painted by Julia, on the new 2015 Clone 4 Pinot Noir. That's going to be releasing, obviously, after we sell through the 2014 Pinot Noir, which still has the first painting on it. So we're going to continue that process. We're going to continue putting folks on the label. We're going to continue to have Julia paint the label, and we're also going to continue the $100,000 grant that we have every year for different well-deserving recipients of someone that represents Seeds of Empowerment and our warrior woman mentality well.
What is the hang time difference at Cambria compared to wine regions in Northern California?
That's a good question. Hang time difference at Cambria versus Northern California.
Well, as we said, we've got the longest hang time, the longest ripening season in the entire country at Cambria, which is unique in itself. But that speaks to the valley, the east-west valley, and it's colder, and you've got fog. And then if the fog blows off and it gets too warm, here comes that ocean air blowing in to keep it cold. And refrigerated sunshine, average temperature of 72 degrees, year-long average temperature of only 72 degrees at Cambria. That is a very cool temp. We harvest sometimes almost a month later than we do in Northern California in certain areas, but depending on warmer and cooler. Now, when we get out to the wild, out in the coldest ridges close to Sonoma Coast, where we have the same condition, where the ocean air and fog are just blowing in, those will be long to ripen. But I think where do we harvest first? Well, we harvest probably Napa Valley, and then depending on grape. Okay, so we talk about Chardonnay up north. I think you've got Russian River Valley and the Middle Reach, and maybe out in the Laguna and the Plain, a little bit warmer than in Green Valley, certainly, or Sebastopol area and Sonoma Coast. That's colder. Carneros probably comes in right about the same time as Green Valley or the cooler area of Russian River Valley. And Mendocino and Anderson will probably come in after that. And Cambria will be harvesting probably as late as anything else in any of our other regions.
Not only that, but you start bud break sometimes in February.
Yes.
And then it takes all the way to potentially October before you're picking. So
and this year and last year, both we started bud break at least two weeks earlier, and thereby having even longer ripening season. So here's what's really so cool about this is we get physiological ripeness with crunchy seed and ripe grapes, but without elevated sugars, which is a beautiful thing.
Great. All right, so that concludes the questions that we've gotten. Thank you for sending them. we want to leave you with one last thing. So I'm going to ask you one last question. Is, as a master sommelier, and you're talking to your buyer, you're talking to the wholesaler, what are the 4 things that you want them to take away from these wines or this winery?
Well, for Cambria, that's a great question. We want to talk about old soils, old vines, the coldest, longest ripening season in the country, all right, with a tremendous south-facing slope, and what I would call beautiful fresh wines, brilliant acidity, with authentic earthiness, creating a very French style in California.
Great. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking time away from the field to do this. We know you guys are looking for all sorts of tools. Hopefully this will help. We're going to send all of these things out as we get closer to October Cambria Month, including the video. The new point of sale will be available on the Print on Demand store. And all of us are going to get out into the marketplace. So look for us in a city near you. And if you have any special requests, please don't hesitate to send them my way. We're going to send out this deck. We're going to send out more information. And we really want to thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
Cheers.
Drink delicious wine. Life's too short.